Pilots, what's the scariest stuff you've seen while flying? I'm a commercial airline captain based out of LAX, and this was the closest I've come to biting it in the air. It started like a normal short-haul leg, a routine morning flight, nothing out of the ordinary on paper. One bleed air source, bleed 2, had been deferred before takeoff, which happens more often than people think. Maintenance signed it off. We had the APU running as a backup bleed source and bleed 1 on the left engine, so we were cleared to fly. Still 2 sources of pressurization, redundancy intact. Dispatch confirmed we were good to go, so we briefed, pushed back, and taxied out. Takeoff roll was smooth. As soon as we were wheels up, the APU failed, just like that. No warning, no noise, just blinked out on the panel. Now we were down to 1 bleed source, the number 1 engine, which is still technically legal, still enough to pressurize the cabin, but not where you want to be, especially climbing to 30,000 feet. We were only scheduled to cruise in the low 30s, so I wasn't immediately alarmed. I keyed in a message to dispatch through ACARS, letting them know what had happened, requested a plan, continue the flight, or return. I figured we'd hear back within a few minutes. My optimism lasted about 6 of those minutes. Passing through 25,000 feet, I tried to take a breath and felt the air move out of my lungs instead of in. That moment when your body recognizes something is wrong before your brain catches up. I snapped to the cabin altitude gauge. It was showing 8,000 feet and climbing fast. I mean fast, rising with us. That's a classic sign of total pressurization failure. The cabin wasn't holding pressure. The airplane was essentially a giant tin can with a hole in it. Then came the ICAS chime. Bleed 1 fail. That was it. Game over for pressurization. Bleed 2 was deferred. APU was dead. Bleed 1 had just failed. We had nothing left. At 25,000 feet and climbing, we were moments away from the cabin altitude exceeding 10,000 feet, then 14,000, triggering mask deployment, hypoxia risk, potential loss of consciousness. I threw my headset off and pulled on my full-face oxygen mask and goggles. Pure oxygen under pressure. My FO did the same. You don't waste time in that scenario. You don't check in. You don't ask, you just mask up. Because if the flight deck goes out, there's no one left to fly the airplane. I declared an emergency. ATC gave us an immediate descent clearance to 10,000 feet. We pitched down, speed brakes out, and aimed for max airspeed. Initiated a 180 back to LAX. SoCal airspace is no joke, but they vectored traffic out of our way like it was a scene from a movie. We were cleared direct to the longest runway. Cabin altitude topped out right around the point where things get serious, but never hit the level where passenger oxygen masks would automatically deploy. Still, I'm sure people noticed. The air got thin, some ears popped. One woman told a flight attendant later she thought she had a panic attack. Another said she couldn't get a full breath for a few minutes. It got hot. No bleed air meant no airflow, no cooling. Cabin temp started rising and people were visibly uncomfortable. But nobody really panicked. They felt something was off, but the lights were still on, the plane was still flying, and the flight attendants stayed calm. Credit to them for that. We landed uneventfully. Fire trucks were already in position, just in case. We taxied to the gate, parked, and shut it down. Everyone deplaned normally. Most thought it was just some minor mechanical glitch, maybe a reroute due to weather. I gave a brief announcement, kept it vague, soft language. We experienced an issue with the aircraft's pressurization system and made a precautionary return. Safety is always our priority, that sort of thing. Smiles, reassurance. There was a group of 12 Chinese tourists on board. They were visibly upset when we landed. Upset about missing the connection, the delay. I don't blame them. I found their translator and gave her a full explanation. Technical terms, what failed, how close it got. She translated it to the group. I watched their faces change. Anger, then confusion, then fear, then something like relief. Then every single one of them bowed to me. Not something I'll ever forget. Maintenance confirmed later. The APU had a fault that went undetected during pre-flight, and the bleed 1 issue turned out to be a valve that had failed mid-climb. Double failure at the worst possible moment. Couldn't have predicted it. Could barely believe it. We swapped aircraft, completed the flight about 3 hours behind schedule. Most people went on their way. Some probably told friends about how annoying it was to have a maintenance delay. But those of us up front, we knew how close that one was. I slept fine that night, but I did leave the oxygen mask sitting on my jump seat just a little longer than usual.